Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Scholz. This week we are picking back up with the retelling of Waverley. And we'll catch up first with the end of the interlude and then into the second tale from Waverley, the cattle lifting. And though I read the Repentance and a Reconciliation chapter, which makes number 12 of Waverley, to the combatants, I was conscious that I must hasten on to scenes more exciting if I meant to retain the attention of my small but exacting audience. Furthermore, it was beginning to rain. So, hurriedly breaking off the tale, we drove back to Melrose across the green olms of St. Boswell's. It was after the hour of tea, and the crowd of visitors had ebbed away from the precincts of the abbey before the tale was resumed. A flat throw-stone sustained the narrator, while the four disposed themselves on the sunny grass, in the various attitudes of severe inattention which youth assumes when listening to a story. Sweetheart poured into the depths of a buttercup. Hugh John scratched the freestone of a half-buried tomb with a nail till told to stop. Sir Toady Lion, having a pinch-bug corralled in his palms, sat regarding it cautiously between his thumbs. Only Maid Margaret, her dimpled chin on her knuckles, sat looking upward in rapt attention. For her, there was no joy like that of a story. Only she was too young to mind letting the tale-teller know it. That made the difference. Above our heads the beautiful ruin mounted, now all red gold in the lights and purple in the shadows, while round and through from the highest tower to the lowest arch the swifts shrieked and swooped. The second tale from Waverley, the cattle lifting. Next morning, I continued, looking up for inspiration to the pinnacles of Melrose cut against the clear sky of evening as sharply as when John Morrow, master mason, looked upon his finished work and found it very good. Next morning, as Captain Edward Waverley was setting out for his morning walk, he found the castle of Bradwardine by no means the enchanted palace of silence he had first discovered. Milkmaids, bare-legged and wild-haired, ran about distractedly with pails and three-legged stools in their hands, crying, "Lord guide us," and "Yes, sirs." Bailey Macweeble, mounted on his dumpy, round-barrelled pony, rode hither and thither, with half the ragged rascals of the neighbourhood clattering after him. The Baron paced the terrace, every moment glancing angrily up at the Highland hills from under his bushy grey eyebrows. From the byre lasses and the Bailey, Edward could obtain no satisfactory explanation of the disturbance. He judged it wiser not to seek it from the angry Baron. Within doors, however, he found Rose, who, though troubled and anxious, replied to his questions readily enough. "There's been a creech, that is, a raid of cattle-stealers out from the Highland hills," she told him, hardly able to keep back her tears. Not, she explained, because of the lost cattle, but because she feared that the anger of her father might end in the slaying of some of the Caterans, and in a blood feud which would last as long as they or any of their family lived. "And all because my father is too proud to pay blackmail to Vic Ian For," she added. "Is the gentleman with that curious name," said Edward, "a local robber or a thief-taker?" "Oh, no," Rose laughed outright at his southern ignorance. "He is a great Highland chief and a very handsome man. If only my father would be friends with Fergus MacIver, then Tullyvalen would once again be a safe and happy home. He and my father quarrelled at a county meeting about who should take the first place. In his heat, he told my father that he was under his banner and paid him tribute. But it was Bailey Macweeble who paid the money, without my father's knowledge. And since then, he and Vic Ian Vor have not been friends." "But what is blackmail?" Edward asked in astonishment, for he thought that such things had been done away with long ago. All this was reading like an old black-letter book in his uncle's library. "It is money," Rose explained, "which, if you live near the Highland border, you must pay to the nearest powerful chief, such as Vic Ian Vor. And then, if your cattle are driven away, all you have to do is just to send him word and he will have them sent back, or others as good in their places. Oh, you do not know how dreadful to be at feud with a man like Fergus MacIver. I was only a girl of 10 when my father and his servants had a skirmish with a party of them near our home farm. So near, indeed, that some of the windows of the house were broken by the bullets, and 3 of the Highland raiders were killed. I remember seeing them brought in and laid on the floor in the hall, each wrapped in his plaid. And next morning, their wives and daughters came, clapping their hands and crying the coronach and shrieking. And they carried away the dead bodies, with the pipes playing before them. Oh, I could not sleep for weeks afterwards without starting up, thinking that I heard again those terrible cries.
All this seemed like a dream to Waverley. To hear this young gentle girl of 17 talk familiarly of dark and bloody deeds such as even he, a grown man and a soldier, had only imagined, yet which she had seen with her own eyes. By dinner-time, the Baron's mood had grown somewhat less stormy. He seemed for the moment to forget his wounded honour, and was even offering, as soon as the quarrel was made up, to provide Edward with introductions to many powerful northern chiefs, when the door opened and a Highlander in full costume was shown in by the butler. "Welcome, Evan du Maccombich," said the Baron, without rising and speaking in the manner of a prince receiving an embassy. "What news from Fergus MacIver of Vor?" The ambassador delivered a courteous greeting from the Highlands chief. Fergus MacIver, he said, was sorry for the cloud that hung between him and his ancient friend. He hoped that the Baron would be sorry too, and that he should say so. More than this he did not ask. This the Baron readily did, drinking to the health of the chief of the MacIvers, while Evan Maccombich in turn drank prosperity to the house of Bradwardine. And that is the second tale, part 1, The Cattle Lifting from Waverley, as retold by our author, Samuel Rutherford Crockett. And I do know that I am more likely than not butchering some of these names, and I would be butchering some of these names if I was reading from the original Scott as well, and I'm sorry. This is Dan Scholz with the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you like to listen. And you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As always, thank you so much for listening.